there's a lot of things I want to talk to you about, but let's talk about how I discovered you. And I don't mean that to like take a credit for like finding you, but I'm looking through Bowhunter, which I've written for a long time, and I see this article, and it's written about bows I've never heard of by this girl I've never heard of, and so I read it and I go, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And so I reached out to you through Facebook. But how did you get that how did you get that Bowhunter assignment?
Well, it wasn't an assignment. I actually wrote the article about the bows because nobody's hunting with them, and I think that they have so many benefits to offer for the hunter. I wanted to share it with people. So I wrote the article, and then Bowhunter was the first choice of a magazine that I sent it to. So I just did an editorial submission, and Kurt Wells got back to me. So,
and he bought it. And let's talk about the bows then, because you feel the need to share this, and these are pretty unique bows that you're hooked on.
Yep. So they're West Asian recurves. They're used for mounted archery, and that's how I got into them. So I love riding horses. I love archery. And I looked for the opportunity to learn about mounted archery. And I went to a clinic with Lucas Novotny. He's a bowyer and a mounted archer champion. And so I started with a PVC bow at that clinic, but still in that same light style. And then I love shooting it. So before that, I was hunting not with a recurve. I was hunting with a compound bow, and I really wanted to get into traditional bows. Just didn't take the time to practice, really.
Yep.
Is what it was. I was in school and more of a time thing. And when I started shooting for the mounted archery recurve, it was such a difference. Like I wanted to go out and shoot the bow all the time. With the compound bow, I wanted to go hunt, but shooting wasn't as fun for me. So I worked at shooting lots of small game and doing some mounted archery competitions, and then ended up getting a stronger bow eventually that I can hunt larger game with. I actually just did that last year.
Oh, okay. So let's back up a second though, because you love horses, you love riding horses, and you had been hunting with a modern compound, but you're like,
Yes.
I want to hunt with traditional, and that just led you down this path where you saw these bows that are just perfect, and they come from a pedigree of mounted horseback archers, and you thought, this is what I got to do.
Well, a bit more to it. So my dad's a traditional bow hunter, so I grew up wanting to do that and playing games like archery golf with him. And because I was shooting this little bow so much, I was so accurate with it. I was doing better than he was, which was a good thing. So I realized that I could shoot well with it. And I could shoot really quickly. I could get a couple shots off, and I just was like, why aren't we shooting with this style when we're hunting? You know, I get one arrow in a deer normally. So, now, actually, the only deer that I've shot with this bow I put 2 arrows in, which was great. So just adds to the blood trail and the chance of finding the animal and the chance of doing a better, quicker kill. So
yeah, it's designed. I mean, people are going to have to look this up. We'll put some pictures up of it, but it is designed to be, it's like, if you imagine, I mean, probably the best that people could visualize with this is, I think the Comanches were the ones that the Native Americans who mastered shooting bows off of horses here first. And if you think about like riding into battle or riding up against your enemy, you don't want to take the compound route and have to draw back and hold and settle and everything. This is like it's a super fast shot cycle, and the bow's designed to be accurate around that.
Exactly. So because of its design, it's really short, it's really lightweight. You shoot off of the right side for me because I'm right-handed. So the same side that your handedness. So because of that, you can hold multiple arrows in your same hand that's holding the bow, and then just draw them back really quickly without worrying about having to go across your string, possibly cutting that or stabbing your arm or anything. It's that point and shoot style of nature. I don't even have an anchor when I shoot. So it's called a floating rest that you do, because when you're on a horse, if you anchored, it would have a lot of interference with your face and jamming up. And so all of those reasons that allow you to shoot it from a horse also give you advantages for hunting, especially I do a lot of stalking or still hunting over stand hunting. So because of that, when an opportunity presents itself, I need to take advantage of that. And this style of shooting comes really natural for me doing that.
There's two things about that I want to clarify about how you shoot those bows. And the first thing you talked about is you're right-handed and you're mounting the arrow on the right side of the riser as opposed to the left side, which is, so I'm assuming people look at pictures of you shooting and they're like, this chick's shooting on the wrong side of her bow. Like they probably look at it and think you're knocking your arrow wrong, but it's designed to be that way. And what it looks like from your pictures is you cant your bow a little bit when you shoot. You're not straight up and down, right? When
because you're holding the arrow with your index finger up against the bow with your thumb draw, which is, I'll have to explain that. You can hold it upside down with the arrow on the bottom, not resting against the bow, and the arrow will still stay on. So whatever angle you need to be at. So in a mounted archery competition, there's one shot that you have to do off the back of the horse. So you actually have to kind of bend around in your saddle with your leg up and shoot off the back. So you are canted in different directions depending on what shot that you need to take. So in the bush, it's perfect for in the bush because I can go at whatever angle I need to get around what's between me and the animal.
So you are holding, your finger is functioning as the rest though. That's on your bow arm.
No. So there's no rest on your bow arm.
What's holding it? Oh, you just keep it in place with the draw with your.
So exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Cause I want to just stop there for a second because when I look at the pictures of you, I'm like, how the hell is she doing this? Because I can see, like when I shoot a recurve, I can't all my traditional bows, but I have a rest on the left side. So they just naturally ride on the rest. You look like you can't it the same way, but you're like defying gravity. And I'm going, what is holding this? Cause I could see that your finger wasn't holding it and it's that thumb draw.
Yes. So, for a thumb draw, you have your thumb under the nock, over the string. And then you place it against your other finger, so your middle finger, with your index finger over the thumb, just to help with all the weight that it's pulling back. But that index finger also is up against your arrow and helping push it into the bow. So it's the pressure between the bow and your index finger that's holding it in its place.
For anybody listening who's confused, just look up some pictures of this. I'm sure there's tons of YouTube videos out there, but it looks like you're doing everything wrong because it's like you went back in time to shoot these things and we're so used to the way that we do it now. And so it's fascinating. And I want to talk about the floating anchor thing too, because that's something. It's very hard for people to understand right now because we just preach form and consistency constantly with this. And you're sitting here going, I don't even have a consistent anchor point. Like, how do you, I think that's easy to understand riding a horse. Like, I think it's easier for people to understand that. But when you're sitting there and you're shooting targets, if like you're doing that in your backyard, where do you anchor then? Or what do you do?
It's hard for me because I've shot some traditional before and a lot for bow fishing and things. I want to go to an anchor. So that's one thing that I always have to work with myself is thinking, I think about more of the fluidity of my shot, even from before I draw in the whole drawing process. It's hard for me when I haven't been shooting a lot under instruction to stay drawn back and look at where I'm going to shoot, like how I always grew up shooting traditional bows. So I do a really, really quick fluid shot, even when I'm practicing. So I look and I get my mind focused on the target before I even pull back. And then I always have my bow up because on the horse, you don't want to jam an arrow into your horse. And so then I just pull down, pull up and release, kind of all as one fluid motion more.
Mm-hmm. Are you ever with these bows? Are you ever staying at full draw for any reason?
Yes, sometimes when I'm hunting, I draw back and I'm prepared for that shot when the stag or deer walks out from whatever covers between us. So sometimes I am, but I'm in the moment and I'm still thinking about, I do, in mounted archery, I think it's a Hungarian word. Don't quote me on that. I better not say that. But there's a word for a male arrow that describes how it's released and how it's shot. And what they talk about when they're describing that male arrow is that you're doing positive pull through and a positive push with your bow at the same time. So I just focus on when that shot comes, acting like I'm still drawing through a bit as I'm releasing. So
it's almost mimics a back tension style release with a compound where you're pushing and pulling at the same time, and you're like thinking about something physical outside of what's happening with the bow, and what happens with the bow is a good reaction to what you're doing with your body.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not familiar with it with the compound bow, but with this definitely. And just putting that extra bit into the shot, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not entirely the same thing. You know, a lot of people go to a back tension release because they get target panic and they want that true surprise release. And so a back tension release functions by you put tension in your back muscles, and you pull through. And so you're pulling through, and it's not like you're hitting a trigger to release it or anything. It's just, it hits a certain point in this movement. And so it's kind of a similar movement to what you're describing, but a totally different thing in some ways too.
Yeah. Well, I think it may be pretty similar because compound bows and these short little recurves have a lot of similarities. They're really short. And because of that, the point of contact at the release is so important. Like most people use mechanical releases with their compound bow. We're using that single point of contact with our thumb draw as well. And a common mistake for people is that when they go to release, they'll slip forward a little bit with their hand as they're opening it. So that positive pull through, similar to, I think, what you're saying with the compound bow, helps prevent that and keeps it a bit crisper when you're releasing.
Well, yeah, and it keeps your, I mean, when you're drawing a small traditional bow like that, you want to preserve every quarter inch of draw length you got out of it, because you don't want to cheat yourself out of any of the energy you're putting in there, right?
Yeah, the energy, and also it dampens it so much when you are moving forward at the same time that your release itself won't be as crisp, and your arrow will go. I mean, when I do it, my arrow just is a foot to the right or a foot to the left. And I'm like, what happened there? But that's normally what it is.
So you're shooting a compound and you say, enough of this. I want more of a challenge. Was there something going on with the compound where you're just like, I'm not enjoying this? Because you mentioned the target shooting, or was there something else going on?
So I loved the bow hunting aspect of shooting the compound bow, but I would never go. I mean, I would shoot maybe a couple times throughout the season, really just at the beginning of season. Oh, yeah, I'm still hitting. I would shoot oranges, like wild sour oranges. And still hitting the orange. Okay, that's it. Put it up, and I would just take it out for hunting. While with the traditional bow, I mean, because I was shooting this, doing mounted archery before I started hunting with it, and I was still hunting with the compound bow. But I mean, I don't want to put it down. I'd come in when I was in college between classes and go shoot in my apartment complex parking lot. And just every second that I got, it was such a fun activity. And it means so much more when you're out hunting. Not only the hunt's enjoyable, but the shot's enjoyable, and just like walking around with something that you love shooting so much in your hand is so cool. So,
well, you can't overstate that point about the enjoyment of it, because most people have. I shouldn't say most. I would say probably at least 75% of bow hunters today haven't spent any real time shooting traditional archery. And there is a difference. I mean, it is way more fun. And there are some people who just enjoy shooting compounds as well. I mean, I'm super jealous of those people because I'm not one of them. I like shooting, but it doesn't feel the same as when I shoot traditional bows, which is, I find myself doing more and more. And I've flirted with it and hunted with them in the past and loved it. And I will get back to it. Like this coronavirus thing, I was sitting here and I'm like, I wish this would have, if this would have happened sooner. I only have one turkey tag right now because I can't travel out of state. I'm like, I should be hunting with a freaking recurve instead of a compound because I just, like I want to make the most of it. But that's a different story. But you're right. Like the enjoyment of shooting, it's two parts. It just makes the whole process better. But you have to shoot a lot with a bow like that.
Yeah. If I went a week without shooting, I would not feel comfortable going out and hunting with it. Like really, we shoot, well, right now with the coronavirus, we're shooting 2 to 3 different sessions a day. Of course, we can't hunt right now. Hunting's illegal in New Zealand right now because
they don't want people
the
out.
Coronavirus.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So it was for a bit on public land closed, but now it's public and private. So absolutely none. Yeah.
And this is like, this is prime time for travel down there, right? Yeah.
This is the roar right now for the red deer, and then it will start the rut for the tar and chamois too. So, yeah.
Have they given a timeline down there, or is it just like everywhere else where they're like, this is just the way it is right now and we'll lift it eventually?
We're under complete lockdown for another 2.5 weeks, and then it will get reevaluated. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's a rough deal all around. I mean, it sucks to like look at it like a first world problem kind of be like, oh, I can't go hunting. It's different for you because you're guiding. Yeah. But it's still like, yeah, there's bigger stuff going on. So if this works, and we flatten the curve and we get this thing under control, missing out on some hunting, that's okay.
That is okay. It is okay.
But it is a little rough. So when you shoot those, when you say you're going out 2 to 3 times a day and shooting, how heavy is your bow? What are you drawing back for weight, and how much are you shooting?
It's 52 pounds, and the bow that I have been hunting with is, and I don't know how much I'm shooting. It kind of depends how the session goes, how I'm shooting. I try to stop when I'm shooting well. So if I'm doing really well, then it will be a short session. If I'm not, my boyfriend will watch me and tell me what I'm doing wrong, and then I'll practice that.
And so you're receptive to that criticism?
Yes. So he tells me the differences between my shots, and same thing, I'll watch him too. So he shoots regular recurve.
Mm-hmm. He's not going to man up and shoot a West Asian recurve yet?
Yeah, I'll try to. I'm working on talking him into it, but this is actually, he's just starting to shoot the bow this year. So he's a gun hunter.
Oh.
Bow hunting is not popular in New Zealand at all.
There's a lot of greenies down there, huh?
Yeah, they just don't know. They don't know yet.
I've gotten some very nasty emails from people in New Zealand and Australia telling me that I don't deserve to breathe the same air as them. So I know.
Really?
Oh yeah, mostly Australia. But
yeah, especially where I live in the South Island, most people hunt. Like, I think I read a statistic someplace that it was 30% of the entire population of New Zealand were hunters.
Wow.
Like men and women and cities. So pretty much everyone in rural New Zealand hunts. But the difference, it's so different because there's no seasons. Everything's not native. Yep. So no tags, no limits, and people don't think anything. They just want to go out and shoot things more than they're worried necessarily about the hunt and the style of doing it. But maybe I would be that way too if I didn't grow up only having 2 tags, a year. So,
well, it probably feels weird to people native there that, you're like trying to make it more difficult by bow hunting and then more difficult by shooting this little kind of recurve. And they're probably like, there's a different value to the animals there probably than there are here, I would assume.
Yeah. definitely. And a different culture with hunting completely. Like, up until very recently, they were able to just go hunt deer and sell the deer for meat. So, just a different mentality on shooting a lot and producing, really.
So that they can't do that anymore?
They can, but they have to have a license. It's all done from helicopter now, and they also have to have a freezer truck or chiller truck.
Mm-hmm. So there's a little regulation coming in now on it.
Yeah. But still, wild animals can be harvested for consumption, which is cool.
That's, I mean, it's been a long time since we could do that here. And we won't be going back to it anytime soon, I don't think, unless society totally crumbles. So there's so many different things to hunt down there. You know, you've got the turkeys, you've got the tar and the chamois, like you talked about, but the red stags are like that's kind of what everybody's traveling there for. But you keep mentioning deer. What kind of deer are you talking about? Are you talking about red deer?
So the red deer,
okay.
And we have fallow deer. Fallow deer are more associated with people. So there's only a few like public land places where you're able to hunt fallow. A lot of it's on private stations and properties. So when I'm talking about deer hunting, it's red deer. And I really enjoy being in the mountains for the tar and the chamois, but for bow hunting, and I'm a deer hunter. So that's what I like to do for myself. And I'm only in New Zealand part of the year. The rest of the year, I'm in the Northern Hemisphere.